Can trust be used in Medicaid eligibility planning? Trust can be used in Medicaid eligibility planning to shelter assets from a Medicaid spend-down. In general terms, a trust is a legal entity like a corporation or a partnership, which can be used for the ownership and management of assets. The person who creates a trust is referred to as the grantor, while the person who manages the assets is referred to as the trustee. The trustee is to manage the trust assets for the beneficiaries of the trust. Revocable trusts are the most commonly used type of trust. The term revocable means that it can be changed or terminated by the grantor. Revocable trusts are often used to transfer assets upon the death of the grantor to his beneficiaries without probate. Because a grantor controls the assets of a revocable trust, the assets of a revocable trust are considered available to the grantor and countable for Medicaid purposes. Thus, revocable trusts do not protect assets from a Medicaid spend-down. Conversely, irrevocable trusts can shelter assets from a Medicaid spend-down. These trusts are referred to as irrevocable because the grantor does not retain the power to modify or terminate the trust. A grantor can transfer an asset to an irrevocable trust to change the ownership of such asset from the grantor to the trust. This change to the ownership can make the asset non-countable for Medicaid purposes. Irrevocable trusts are often used to make life insurance and real estate non-countable for Medicaid purposes. Supplemental needs trusts are also commonly used in Medicaid planning. These are trusts in which the trustee has broad discretion as to the manner in which distributions are made to the beneficiary. Because of this broad discretion, the assets of a supplemental needs trust may not be countable for Medicaid purposes. This allows a beneficiary to qualify for Medicaid while still being able to receive benefits from the supplemental needs trust. Essentially, if the trust eliminates the ability of the grantor or beneficiary to compel a distribution of the trust assets, the assets may be considered non-countable for Medicaid purposes. Careful drafting and proper timing is required for a trust to shelter assets for Medicaid purposes. For example, the transfer of assets to an irrevocable trust within 5 years of the grantor's Medicaid application could constitute a divestment and result in a penalty period. Thus, the use of a trust in Medicaid planning requires the assistance of competent legal counsel. How can assets be protected from a Medicaid spend-down once the applicant is in a nursing home? There are planning techniques for sheltering assets from a Medicaid spend-down even after an applicant is in a nursing home. They include expending funds on exempt assets such as prepaying funeral expenses, paying down the mortgage on the applicant's home, making improvements to the applicant's home, and upgrading his vehicle. Expenditures of countable funds on exempt assets converts the funds into exempt assets which do not need to be spent on. Another option is to convert countable funds into unavailable assets. For example, real property can be made unavailable by listing it for sale with a real estate broker. Cash investments can be made unavailable through the purchase of a Medicaid qualified annuity or promissory note. A Medicaid qualified annuity or promissory note converts an available cash sum into an income stream in which the principal is not available. There is also the option for an applicant in Wisconsin to transfer countable assets into a pooled special needs trust to be held for his benefit. In Wisconsin, a transfer to a pooled trust does not constitute a divestment if the trust provides for the state to be paid back upon the applicant's death for Medicaid benefits he received during life. Accordingly, in many cases, steps can be taken to shelter assets even after long-term care becomes necessary. In closing, unfortunately, there is a strong likelihood that at some point you may need long-term care. The cost of such care can be catastrophic. Fortunately, you could substantially reduce these costs through proper planning. More information on this topic is available online at www.wismedicaid.com. Thank you for viewing this video. We hope you found it helpful. Please contact us with any questions or comments you may have on this subject.